Hello everyone, my name's Emmy. If you're new here, hi, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Anyways, today I'm just going to be bringing you a part 2 to a video I did last week, which was a lyrical analysis to Taylor Swift's new album, Evermore. If you haven't seen part 1 already, I will be linking it in the description for you to enjoy. It was just getting way too long, had to cut it in half, but anyways, I hope you enjoy. Okay, so next we're going to do Coney Island. A sad one, a breaking soul kind of one. So the first verse, she goes, "Break my soul in two, looking for you, but you're right here." And basically, I thought that she's kind of basically willing to hurt herself, trying to look for this other person, and as it turns out though, he was right there all along. So it feels as though they've grown apart emotionally instead of like physically. She then says, "If I can't relate to you anymore, then who am I related to?" And this is kind of suggesting that, like, in relationships sometimes you make this person all you think about, in a sense, and they become part of your identity. And so when you're no longer with them, you're like, who am I anymore? Then she says, "And if this is the long haul, how did we get here so soon?" It kind of goes back to the idea, like, they thought they were everything. They thought this was going to be it. Here they are so soon, and it's just like, it's like the beginning is just kind of like this confused state. And then she says, "Did I close my fist around something delicate? Did I shatter you?" And this kind of reminds me of the song Delicate, where she is basically the entire time saying, you know, is it cool that I said all that? Is it cool if you're in my head? Because I know that it's delicate. Like, I know that dating me and someone like me is delicate and it needs to be handled with such care. And in the pre-chorus she says, "And I'm sitting on a bench in Coney Island, wondering where did my baby go? Fast times, the bright lights, the merry-go. Sorry for not making you my centerfold." In an Apple Music interview, Taylor expressed how she likes using a place like Coney Island that was once sought out for thrills, but, you know, in the dead of winter in a place like New York, it's just not a place where people go anymore. That kind of reminds us all of, like, a relationship, and, like, sometimes when you're in and out of relationships even, where, like, you're wondering if there's something you're doing, why this exciting thing is no longer lit up anymore. Sorry for not making my centerfold. Makes me think she was not making these people her main priority. Instead, she had maybe been focusing too much on career, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes can make relationships harder. And she's kind of cognizant of the fact that maybe she wasn't there like she should have been. The chorus, she says over and over, "Lost again with no surprises." So this seems to be a pattern in her life. And lost again, kind of inferring that this has happened maybe multiple times, and she's just like wondering at what point were these going south. The second verse, it's both Matt and Taylor. "The question pounds my head, what's a lifetime of achievement?" And I can't remember what interview it was, but I just distinct memory of Taylor saying something along the lines of, what is all of this achievement for? What is all the success for if I have no one to share it with? You know, when you get to the end of this accomplishment, you're wondering when you're all alone if, you know, you were focusing on all the wrong things. Then he says, "If I pushed you to the edge and you were too polite to leave me." And as this is literally from the male perspective, I imagine this line from Taylor's ex, in some might have been aware that she wanted to leave, but she was too nice to walk away, which kind of reminds me of how she was talking about herself in Miss Americana, how she was like just a people pleaser. So like she could be even that way in relationships. And then he says, "And do you miss the rogue who coaxed you into paradise and left you there?" So basically, does she miss the thrill of these relationships, like that they took her to some of the best places yet left her stranded in the end? And I googled what a rogue was because I feel like I knew what it meant, but I wanted a more clear definition, and it was saying a rogue is a dishonest or unprincipled man, so which the narrator is probably referring to himself. Now it's interesting at this point in the song when he says, "And do you miss the rogue who coaxed you into paradise and left you there?" She starts singing as well. They start singing together. So it could be that in them both singing, it could be just for the fact of harmonizing and making it sound pretty, but it is also the point in the song where it kind of gets less specific, and it could be that she believes they both kind of coaxed them into paradise and left each other stranded. The next line, they also sing together, and they sing, "Will you forgive my soul when you're too wise to trust me and too old to care?" Basically asking each other for forgiveness. They're both singing again, when all this is over, when you've learned better and you have the knowledge of not letting people manipulate you like this, can you just look back and just, forgive my soul for what it was? The next pre-chorus, they sing together. They say, "'Cause we were like the mall before the internet, it was the one place to be." I think this is just a fun little line to say, that they were the main attraction, that things were so fast-paced. The mall on a Friday night? Catch me there. So in the last line of the pre-chorus, Matt sings, "Sorry for not winning you an arcade ring," which is just a nice little metaphor that goes along with this idea of Coney Island and it being an amusement park. A lot of times in actual sense you would win your significant other some kind of prize and it's so cute, like a movie, but also it's just like a metaphor for the relationship. Sorry for not, making you my everything. Then we get to the bridge. Okay. She sings, Taylor, "Were you waiting at our old spot in the tree line by the gold clock?" And still trying to tie this specific line to a specific ex. If anybody has any ideas, please leave them in the comments below, because as we'll see very soon, each line kind of lines up with a specific song and a specific ex. "Did I leave you hanging every single night? Were you standing in the hallway with a big cake, happy birthday?" This line in the bridge matches up with a line in the song, "The Moment I Knew," that was allegedly about Jake Gyllenhaal, where she kind of had expected him to show up to her birthday and he never showed. He says, "Did I paint your bluest skies the darkest gray?" And this line gets tied up with Dear John, when she goes, "You paint me a blue sky and go back to turn it to rain." And then he says, "And when I got into the accident, the sight that flashed before me was your face," which this line has been seen to connected to the accident in the snowmobile that Harry and Taylor got into when they were dating, and she sung about it in Out of the Woods in that iconic bridge of a masterpiece. "Remember when you had to break too soon, 20 stitches in the hospital room?" And then the last line of the bridge, she says, "But when I walked at the podium, I think I forgot to say your name." Now this one I haven't gotten behind 100%, but it's speculated to be about Calvin Harris. When he accepted the award for This Is What You Came For, he had thanked Rihanna and all the contributors to the song and the producers and blah blah blah, or whatever, and he didn't mention Taylor when she had been a co-writer. Anyways, and the rest of the song kind of just like repeats itself, so yeah, that's Coney Island. Next song I'm really excited about because it's Ivy, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure out. The first verse goes, "How's one to know? I meet you where the spirit meets the bones." I took this as my initial listen when I first heard the song, that somebody's in a graveyard in front of someone's stone. It was later learned, in my opinion, that it was about her previous husband, and she meets this other man in the same graveyard. So how's one to know? I meet you where the spirit meets the bones. She's meeting someone in this graveyard. I also think since she met him here in the graveyard that he lost someone as well, so they're both kind of in this grieving process together. Bonding moment, ew. Then she says, "In a faith forgotten land," which, she feels that her faith has left her since they took her own husband. A graveyard can mean a lot of things to people, I think, but it's fair to say that some people may believe that it's a faith forgotten land. Then she says, "In from the snow, your touch brought forth an incandescent glow. Tarnished, but so grand." So it sounds like they went inside together after they were outside in the cold graveyard and the snow. Sounds like they went inside together, maybe for a cup of tea, and his touch brought forth an incandescent glow, a kind of heating, like a light that brings forth heat and yeet. The reason why I think he lost someone as well is this line right here, "Tarnished but so grand." Tarnished as in worn, been through some shit. Then the pre-chorus, she sings, "And the old widow goes to the stone every day. But I don't, I just sit here and wait, grieving for the living." Most widows, when their dead husband dies, would go to the stone every day, because, at least for beginning. But she doesn't. She goes about her life, and she may see other widows going to the stone every day, but she doesn't. But they are kind of both grieving over somebody in their past, and she is saying she feels more sorry for the living because they are the ones that kind of have to live with this day to day. And in the chorus, she sings, "Oh goddamn, my pain fits in the palm of your freezing hand, taking mine, but it's been promised to another." Basically, she didn't leave her husband. He died, and so she feels as though these actions are still unfaithful because A, it's very soon after it's happened, and B, because, it was never a choice to leave. It could feel like cheating in a way because, you promised forever and he died before the time was up. And then she sings, "Oh, I can't stop putting your roots in my dreamland. My house of stone, your ivy grows, and now I'm covered in you." He is invading her dreamland, or as Google says, a dreamland is considered an unrealistic ideal world. I know dreamland can sound self-explanatory, but sometimes I'd like to just, get the specifics. And so an unrealistic world, she's kind of thinking, yeah, this is like, stop invading this like alternate reality. This isn't real. You're in a delusion. And then the House of Stone can mean that she is like a cold person after the death of her husband, but it could also mean that she feels part of herself is still dead in a way, and that she is one of those house graves. You know what I'm talking about, like the mausoleum? I'll insert a picture. It could be a metaphor that she feels like a part of her died with her husband, so this mausoleum and, this ivy person is kind of, growing around her and weaving himself into her. Now, it's interesting, part of the ivy is that ivy literally means fidelity, which is ironic since the song appears to be about infidelity, or at least the emotions and the thoughts of the narrator would make it seem as though she is being unfaithful. But ivy is also seen to be invasive, like a weed, something that can destroy one's house if you are not careful. The second verse, she sings, "I wish to know the fatal flaw that makes you long to be magnificently cursed." I just feel as though maybe it's kind of just known that it might be bad luck. I don't know. I think that's what she means by like magnificently cursed. Like, why would you, meddle in this situation when it's so fresh, when we literally met at a graveyard. And then she sings, "He's in the room, your opal eyes are all I wish to see. He wants what's only yours." So he's in the room could mean all of the pictures in the house that they have together with the husband. She may have invited this new man back to her house, and they literally get there and there's pictures lined the wall of her and her husband. He just died. Like, it's not like she's sitting there like, all right, let's take the pictures down. He died. And your opal eyes seem to be the new man, and they're all she wishes to see now. He wants what's only yours. This new man wants what's only the dead husband's. I feel like this combination of phrases, she uses he and your in a very tricky manner that you could take each line and make it about either the dead husband or the new guy. In the third verse, she sings, "Clover blooms in the fields, spring breaks loose, the time is near. What would he do if he found us out? Crescent moon, close is clear, spring breaks loose, but so does fear. He's gonna burn this house to the ground." So she's bringing this idea of seasons in, like she was talking about with just Evermore and folklore in general, how folklore represents spring and summer, Evermore is fall and winter, and so she's kind of tying this to represent the change of feelings. They're no longer in the same stage in life, and that things will change when it comes to their relationship. And it could also feel as though the gravesite is coming to life and they feel like they're gonna get caught because this actual field is no longer covered in ice and they feel like they're no longer sealed in. And when she sings, "What would he do if he found us out?" is interesting because the beginning of the song made it seem as though the husband was dead, so he wouldn't find them out. But I think this is just guilt speaking. There's a lot of guilt involved in this song. Could be referring back to the chorus and her house of stone, although I don't know how much he could actually burn a house of stone, although he could burn off the ivy. Then she sings, "How's one to know? I'd live and die for moments that we stole on begged and borrowed time." How would he know? Maybe. We don't know. They stole these moments, but he wasn't hers to have. In all reality, there's no way he'd find out. It's part of life. You're allowed to grieve, you're allowed to move on, you're allowed to love again. That's just how it is. Then she sings, "So tell me to run or dare to sit and watch what will become and drink my husband's wine." Basically saying, tell me to leave or we can see where this relationship takes us, and drinking her husband's wine. There's really nothing you can do about the fact that this house screams her husband. It screams their relationship together. There's really nothing you can do about it. In the bridge, she sings, "So yeah, it's a fire. It's a goddamn blaze in the dark, and you started it. You started it. So yeah, it's a war, it's a goddamn fight of my life, but you started it. This feels like she's gotten so much of her guilt at this point that she's just like, I need to put it on someone else. Someone else, take this guilt. You started it. You were the one who found me in the graveyard and touched me and held my hand. You know, you started this. And she's just looking somewhere to place her guilt at this point. And that's all I have to say about Ivy. That's so fun. So the next song is Cowboy Like Me. And the first verse goes, and the tennis court was covered up with some tent-like thing, and this kind of just created a picture of maybe like a rich person's house where they have one of those fancy parties in their tennis court and they cover it up with some tent thing and it's all like extravagant, and then you find these two people who are kind of odd men or women out of the bunch, but they're kind of dressed up to blend in, but something still doesn't feel quite right about these two. And then she says, and you asked me to dance, but I said dancing is a dangerous game, because basically dancing will try to get this information out of you. Dancing has been used as kind of like this tool for talking, getting the truth out, kind of manipulating you in a sense, well, in the way that these con people would be using it, and they both know these kind of tactics. The next verse, she sings, oh, I thought this is going to be one of those things. And she thought it was going to be one of those silly nights where this one thing happens, she forgets about it, and it's stupid, and she can move on. It's like, you know, maybe she gets a little money out of this person, like, whatever. Or she can sense the game he's playing back, that he wants to dance, and she knows it's going to be one of those things where maybe she's had an experience with another con man in the past. The chorus, she sings, I've got some tricks up my sleeve, takes one to know one, you're a cowboy like me. They are both con men, and so she has her own tricks and she's kind of using them on him and he's using them back, and so they can kind of tell, they're kind of sharing their own secret because they're using the same tactics that they would on people that are not so, you know, knowledgeable about the tactics. It takes one to know one, because I only know the trade secrets of this line of work like you would. You're a cowboy like me, which cowboys are sometimes referred to as con men. So the third verse, she sings, never wanted love, just a fancy car, which they only want fancy things. That's why they chose this life. They want the fast pace. They want, you know, moving around. They want the money and all the material items, and they're not really interested in a relationship. Then she sings, now I'm waiting by the phone like I'm sitting in the airport bar, which the airport could be seen as a representation of always being on the go, always being in the move, and when you are at the airport, you're just waiting for the plane to come. You're basically at its mercy. Can't control the plane, just like you can't control this phone call. Then in the first post-chorus, she sings, perched in the dark, telling all the rich folks anything they want to hear. And this is the part of being a con artist where you're sneaking up on people, manipulating them in the dark, stealing their women, their money, everything. You tell these rich folk what they want to hear, because that's when you know they'll become the most vulnerable to you. Love is brought up again, which is interesting. It symbolizes what everybody wants to hear. It's something that makes us all kind of vulnerable, and we do stupid shit when we're in love. And then she sings, like it could be love, I could be the way for it only if they pay for it. You're a bandit like me. So they tell these rich folks, I could be the way for it, but you'll have to pay for it because this is what they do. That's just part of the job, and you always gotta pay for it. It could be love, but it's a price. And then the post-chorus, she sings, eyes full of stars, hustling for the good life, never thought I'd make it here. Eyes full of stars could mean that they've always had their mindset on money and shiny things and the glory of life, and they're hustling to become rich. They never thought they'd make it here. Could either mean that they don't think they'd make it here because of the nature of the job, like the heist and the money and all of this is dangerous, or never thought I'd make it here in the sense of like, I never thought I'd fall in love. And in the bridge she sings, and the skeletons in both our closets plotted hard to fuck this up. Basically they've done some nasty shit in their life that is gonna come back to haunt them and try and screw this up. And the old man that I swindled really did believe I was the one, so she dated all these rich men to take all of their money, and she was very good at convincing them that she was the one. She says, and the ladies lunching have their stories about when you passed through town, but that was all before I locked it down. So all these ladies are gossiping what he did before. But now he's actually with her, and she's locked it down, meaning they're together. And now they don't got nothing to say. They're just like, oh shit. Then the fourth verse, she sings, now you hang from my lips like the gardens of Babylon. He has found these hanging gardens, and he's clinging to her. And her lips are these hanging gardens. And he's afraid if he leaves, he will never find it again. Because these gardens have never been found, and archaeologists have said that these gardens were destroyed by war and erosion. It's the only seven wonder that has not been identified. He found someone just like him. So he's kind of comparing the fact that he found love to the fact of it's the seven wonder of the world that hasn't been identified yet. He's basically like, the fact that I found you is like a 1 in a million chance. I did not even think you were out there anymore to find. With your boots beneath my bed, forever is the sweetest con. So now we can assume they're together. Her boots or his boots, somebody's boots are beneath the bed. But love is con, because you can fuck it up. And it can fuck you up so hard that it leaves you with absolutely nothing. Forever is a lie though, because all relationships must come to an end. It's not real. It's a fable like the Garden of Babylon. And then the outro, she just sings, and I'm never gonna love again. So after this, she knows that love is the ultimate con. She has used this against the rich folk because she knows it is so good, but now, firsthand, she's falling victim to it, and she's like, nope, never going to love again. And that's all I have for a cowboy like me. Next we have Long Story Short. First verse says, fatefully, I tried to pick my battle, so the battle picked me. Basically, I think this one's about Taylor, and I think this means that she was very cautious before about how she got involved in drama, but the more famous she became, the harder it was to do this because people were just calling her out personally and just like attacking her. Misery, like the war of words I shouted in my sleep. So basically this sadness consumed her so much that it seeped into her sleep. It's all she really thought about. It became part of her. And you pass right by, I was in the alley surrounded all sides. I think she's talking about Joe, kind of jumped into her life at this moment where she was kind of surrounded by, you know, trolls. Then she says, the knife cuts both ways. If the shoe fits, walk in it till your high heels break. So this could mean that the knife or the point could serve both sides of the argument, depending on how you look at it. People usually just see what they want to see and believe. So when people were already hitting on Taylor, the evidence made sense to them, so they kind of rolled with it. For example, the snake references that were all over her comments, people ate that shit up. Even though the evidence against Taylor wasn't very strong, and she was trying to make an argument that they didn't want to hear. And basically when she says, if the shoe fits, walk in it till your high heel breaks, if you find the love of your life in the midst of all this crazy, you roll with it and you don't ask questions. And in the chorus she sings, and I fell from the pedestal right down the rabbit hole. Long story short, it was a bad time. Basically, this was the whole fiasco in 2016. We know. We know. With Tom Hiddleston and Calvin Harris and Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, as if enough couldn't happen in 1 year for this poor girl. She damn fell from that metaphorical pedestal, pushed from the precipice, clung to the nearest lips. Long story short, it was the wrong guy. A precipice is like a cliff, so she basically fell off this metaphorical cliff as like the pedestal, clung to the closest guy she could find, literally at like the same event, and she was just like, I'm out of here. I'm outie 5000. Getaway car, vroom vroom, pack it up, Tom. Then she says in the post-chorus, now I'm all about you. I'm all about you. And all I have written here is Joe with a heart. The second verse, she sings, actually, I always felt I must look better in the rear view, missing me at the golden gates they once held the keys to. So she feels like maybe guys in relationships often look back more fondly on their relationships than they actually did when they were in it. It must be fun to like reminisce on it, but not actually be in the moment. And the line, at the golden gates they once held the keys to, like they did something so triumphant, but in the moment they weren't treating her the best, almost. And then she sings, when I dropped my sword, I threw it in the bushes and knocked on your door, and we live in peace, but if someone comes at us, this time I'm ready. So basically, she's given up getting involved in all this drama. She doesn't humor much of it these days. I would say nothing she humors. She doesn't humor any of it. So even if people are going to try and bring her down and bring her into it. She is no longer interested. And in the bridge, she sings, "No more keeping score. Now I just keep you warm." Again, she's no longer getting wrapped up in all the nonsense. She's just trying to be with her lover. She sings, "No more tug of war. Now I just know there's more." She realized there's more to life than caring about what people think of you and your reputation, and it's really not worth it to try and change people's minds about you, because you really can't. Like, all you can try and do is be a good person. And my waves meet your shore, ever and evermore. I didn't realize she said evermore until I read these lyrics. I thought she was saying forever and evermore, but it's evermore. Verse 3, she sings, "Past me, I want to tell you not to get lost in these petty things. Your nemesis will defeat themselves before you get the chance to swing." Basically, self-explanatory again, like the rest of the song kind of. She wishes she could go back and tell herself to chill the fuck out. Sit down, let everybody else do stupid shit, because they're gonna. And then she sings, "And he's passing by, rare as a glimmer of a comet in the sky, and he feels like home if the shoe fits, walk in it everywhere you go." So she's like, Joe passed me at this rare moment, like at this weird moment. I met the love of my life somehow. Like, how is that possible? Don't ask life and fate questions when they hand you a gift. Yeah, that just kind of repeats itself after that for the chorus, so that's all I have for long story short. Next we have Marjorie. So, in the first verse, she sings, "Never be so kind, you forget to be clever. Never be so clever, you forget to be kind." These kind of like flipped reverse phrases are very nice. I think they're great, and they feel like wisdom from a grandmother. These verse phrases seem like they were passed down from her, maybe something she's always told Taylor, maybe something she's written down, maybe something she's told Taylor's mom. It's just kind of a good reminder that life is balance and that too much of something is never good. And then in the pre-chorus she says, "And if I didn't know better, I think you were talking to me now." Kind of just like the feeling you get when you know someone's past, but it just, you still feel their presence all around you. You know, their wisdom is kind of lived on to the point where you feel like they're talking to you. It feels special. And in the chorus, she just kind of reiterates what I just said. "What died didn't stay dead. You're alive in my head." Which, in all reality, this is true. Like, the idea of someone could live on in your head forever. Death cannot take that from you. And whatever happens after life, who knows? But we do know is that you can have that in your head forever. Verse 2, "Never be so polite, you forget your power. Never wield such power, you forget to be polite." Basically, the verse phrases, again, seem to be like passed down wisdom. Same thing. Again, that balance that Granny is bringing us. Thank you for the wisdom. It feels it feels present when those lines are going. And the next verse she sings, "If I didn't know better, I think you were listening to me now." So after she's sung her piece, she's listening back almost. And then again in the chorus, "What died didn't stay dead, you're alive in my head." They never truly disappear. Whether they're actually looking over us or it's just a thought in our mind, they will always be with us. And in the bridge she sings, "The autumn chill that wakes me up. You love the amber sky so much, long limbs and frozen swims. You'd always go past where our feet could touch." So this line about the feet can touch sort of literally and metaphorically plays out in my mind, like they may have gone swimming where she went out past where their feet could actually touch. But also, it feels like an overall sentiment that Marjorie was this brave and daring person that grandparents can sometimes represent for kids. I mean, at least Marjorie did for Taylor. And then she says, "And I complained the whole way there, the car ride back and up the stairs." I know I would complain to my grandparents when I was younger, but I think that's just kind of what grandkids do. We always regret it later though. Listened more and, didn't give them such a hard time because they were just trying to give us the best. And then she says, "I should have asked you questions. I should have asked you how to be, asked you to write it down to me." I think we especially feel this when we're older and we can, kind of conceptualize the idea of death and what it means for somebody to leave us. When you lose somebody when you're younger, you don't prepare for that. You don't think you should be asking them any more questions or trying to get them know them. And then she sings, "All of your closets of backlog dreams and how you left them all to me." And Taylor said that Marjorie was an opera singer that had closets of beautiful dresses, and she wishes she could have asked her all of the memories that went along with these dresses and where she wore them to in the stories, and just like the lessons that she learned. And in the outro she sings, and if I didn't know better, I'd think you were singing to me now. And then those backing vocals from Marjorie come in, and when you hear it and you realize it for the first time, you're like, holy shit, like your grandma's literally on this track. That's some real shit. Anyways, that's Marjorie. Next we have Closure. First verse is, it's been a long time, and seeing the shape of your name still spells out pain. So she's, in my opinion, this is about Scott Borchetta. Okay? So, in my opinion, she is still hurt by Scott Borchetta, and he has just sent her a letter, and just the name of him on the letters is sending her places. She sings, it wasn't right, the way it all went down. Looks like you know that now. He knows he made a mistake, and in how he handled the selling of her masters and her life's work to Scooter, but, you know, it's too late. So in the chorus she sings, yes, I got your letter, yes, I'm doing better, like, I'm doing good on some new shit, period. Sealed it. It cut deep to know ya, right to the bone. Basically, you knew her so well. You knew how to cut deep to the bone. You knew how to sink to the spots in her body and her mind that would cut the deepest and hurt the most. And then she sings, I know that it's over, I don't need your closer. So she does not need you to apologize, sir. This is only serving you. This apology is doing nothing besides trying to win back the public and make yourself look better, and we all see through it. Then in the second verse she sings, don't treat me like some situation that needs to be handled. Basically, Scott just wants this to get over with. He wants it out of the way. He wants himself to look good. He wants to move on with his life. You know, maybe do some other financial and business endeavors, and he doesn't want Taylor kind of corrupting that image, clouding their judgment. I'm fine with my spite and my tears and my beers and my candles. Taylor is fine staying mad. She is fine staying, you know, petty in her own sense. She's no longer in other petty shit. But she's fine staying, you know, where she is, holding her ground, you know, standing up for herself when she knew that she has been hurt. And then she sings, I can feel you smoothing me over, like he's trying to cover up things. He's just like, putting a blanket over it, cover it up, put a sheet over it, hope nobody looks twice. Then the bridge, she sings, I know I'm just a wrinkle in your new life, staying friends with iron it out so nice. So he's again trying to move on, make himself look good. Staying friends would make all of his plans in the future just go so much better. So Taylor, if you could do me a solid, just like act like we're cool. Because I need to move on with my life, even though you should have thought about the repercussions when you were in the middle of selling your masters to the scumbag who doesn't like Taylor. Okay, they don't get along. He has made it clear in the past that they don't get along. Just a little tap. She sings, guilty, guilty, reaching out across the sea that you put between you and me. This reminds me of Tears Ricochet when she's like, in the battleships will sink beneath the waves. Like, this kind of brings this sea battleship narrative that she has created, which I like. You created this distance, you created this battle, you created these divide, and now you want to reach back out. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. That's hypocritical. Like, you created this mess. And then she says, but it's fake and it's oh so unnecessary. Which it is. Just like, stop. You're embarrassing yourself. At this point, you can't undo what has been done, and you're only mad because you got caught. And then the last chorus kind of repeats itself. So that's all I have for Closure. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Evermore. In the first verse, she sings, Gray November, I've been down since July. So this song has been found to have a double meaning, and Taylor has stated so herself in the Apple Music interview. From one end, she was stating how she wanted to kind of reflect the election time, and depending on the results and such, she was going to put it out, and so it's kind of just feeling hopeful that things will get better and that the new person will come into power. But it also was relating to the fact that it closely reflects Taylor's year in 2016. It's so interesting. She is diving into that time in her life again, because I think it's something that she maybe wanted to talk about at the time, but it just wasn't appropriate given the circumstances. So I will be more so focusing on the 2016 point of view from this song, because it's just more easily explained, I think. So in reference to the Gray November, I've been down since July line. July is when Kim came out against Taylor on Twitter in the GQ article, and the tweet that she stated she didn't know it was National Snake Day. So then in adding in this November part, she's stating that she was literally been sad this entire time and that this was like a dark period for her. Then she states, motion capture put me in a bad light. I replay my footsteps on each stepping stone, trying to find the one where I went wrong. So the paparazzi are always taking all these pictures, and they kind of made her out to be the bad guy, posting on these tabloids the titles of these pictures that they're taking of like the whirlwind and jet setting and new men. It could also be referencing the video recording of her phone conversation with Kanye West, and how people kind of twisted that into thinking that she approved an entire song when she approved a line. And when she had a problem with that bitch, you know, people had a problem with her coming out saying she didn't like being called that bitch. And in the chorus, she sings, and I was catching my breath, staring out the open window, catching my death. And I couldn't be sure. I had a feeling so peculiar that this pain would be for evermore. So she thought that this time in her life would be forever. That this crazy, chaotic period of everybody sending her, you know, snake emojis on her Instagram posts and telling her to die and that she's stupid. She thought it would be forevermore. I remember so often during the Reputation era, and even in Lover kind of, because she didn't really talk much Reputation, because, you know, there will be no explanation, just Reputation. But like, she would kind of say she wasn't sure if she'd ever get to do something like this again. And in the second verse, she sings, hey December, guess I'm feeling unmoored. Unmoored of a person means insecure, confused, or lack contact with reality. So in December of 2016, she may have been feeling detached from these situations that she was in the beginning of the year. Kind of distance myself. Kind of reminds me of the Call It What You Want when she's like, I remember late November, so right before December, holding my breath. Slowly I said, you don't have to save me, but would you run away with me? Yes! So maybe they ran away and now she's kind of feeling unmoored. She's lacking, you know, this contact with reality. The next line she says, can't remember what I used to fight for. So now that she's with Joe, she's in their own world. She can't even remember why she was, you know, putting up a fight and trying to like change public opinion. She sings, I rewind the tape, but all it does is pause on the very moment all was lost. So she keeps going back to the past, but it keeps kind of going back to the phone call situation is what I take it as. She's not really sure where she went wrong and like why people decided they didn't want to believe her anymore. And then she sings, sending signals to be double-crossed. And this could be the connected to the phone call again where, you know, with Kanye West and how she was double-crossed by him and Kim. And in the bridge, we get Justin Vernon. He's coming in hot. Cannot think of all the cost and all the things that will be lost. Oh, can we just get a pause to be certain we'll be tall again? Whether weather be the frost or the violence of the dog days. I'm on waves, out being tossed. Is there a line that I can just go across? And basically he's saying, can she just catch a break? Like, to be sure that she can come over this long, hard year for her. And she's lacking hope at this point because she has this grief, which has come up a lot in the last record, especially, like Folklore, it had come up a lot about this, like, grief that, like, never truly goes away. It comes up a lot in, like, Hoax and The Lakes, especially, and this grief comes up in, like, every season. So there's this frost in the winter and the dog days of the summer, and more specifically, the dog days or canicular days are the hot and sultry period of summer between July and early September, or even more metaphorically, a period of stagnation of time in which evil influences prevail. So it's interesting that they use the term dog days, because that dog day in 2016, those dog days in 2016 were flaming hot with evil and influences that prevailed. And she's basically out on these waves being tossed either way, and she's hoping that something will come along and push her out of this. And then together they're singing, and when I was shipwrecked, I thought of you. In the cracks of light, I dreamed of you. It was real enough. So basically when all hell was breaking loose and she was with the wrong guy, going through this tumultuous public feud, she thought of this cute guy on Sunset and Vine with the ocean blue eyes, and this brought her hope. And then she sings, I swear you were there. Basically the thought of him definitely was, and he even was in November getting her through the grief and there to run away with her. My first perception of this song honestly was about COVID. Kind of come out of this stronger. When she starts by saying gray November, I've been down since July, like it's like, yeah, like this sadness is just like prolonged itself for so many months. You're like, what year is it? And in the last chorus they both sing together, and I couldn't be sure. I had a feeling so peculiar. This pain wouldn't be for evermore, evermore. She came out of all this, she got through it, and she realized that she can move on from this. She's able to live it. And I just like how this song has literally like almost 3 different meanings. Anyways, that is my full Evermore lyrical analysis. Don't forget to subscribe and like it if you liked it. Stick around for more, and I'll see you next time. Kisses, bitches!